Jay, you brought up the question before. This is the biggest question I think all Browns fans want to know. Who do you guys think will be calling plays for the Browns in 2024? Kevin Stefanski or new offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey?
It's so hard to answer that question because we have information that you don't know for sure, but it feels like.
Who would you guess? Because I agree. I even said mine's strictly a guess.
I think Kevin Dorsey's going to call plays.
Kevin Dorsey?
Hey, they're both going
Kevin
to.
Dorsey
Kevin calls the first half, Dorsey calls the second
half. So
half.
they're going to merge together
Mind meld.
Vegeta and Goku, and it could be Vegito or Gogeta.
Is that
Pokemon? No, that's Dragon Ball Z. So Kevin Dorsey, what kind of coach will Kevin Dorsey be?
I don't know. But Ken Dorsey, I didn't say John Dorsey, though.
No.
Right,
Ken Dorsey, I think, will call plays. And if that happens, maybe unfairly, but I'm going to assume that was a Jimmy decision and not a Kevin Stefanski decision. And if that's the case, I'm not happy. Doesn't mean it won't work.
Sure.
But I won't be happy initially going into it.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Jay, what do you think?
Strictly a guess, and I hate guessing, but we just don't know yet. I hate guessing.
I do too.
I'd say Ken. I think it's going to be Dorsey. Yeah. But it's strictly a guess.
Yeah. G?
Oh, this is easy. To me, when Van Pelt left, I think that opened the door that they were trying to say they want a different type of
I felt
voice.
the same thing.
They want a little bit
They
want to definitely just switch it up and just give it a different. And sometimes you just want a different feel, right? And I think Kevin is a good enough team player. Like people say all the time, oh, gee, you should kill Kevin Stefanski. I'm saying I kill him on play calling, right? But I've been clear when it comes to the type of character I think he has and the type of motivation and the type of energy that he gives his team. His team plays hard for him. You haven't heard one person come out and say anything bad about Stefanski. You ain't heard nobody come out and say, anything egregious. He's always even killed. So on that aspect of coaching, I think he does a really good job. So for me, I think he's going to show a lot of people, hey, I can do other things besides call plays. I'm here to get the best out of everybody and to ultimately win a championship.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement then because I believe it's Dorsey too, and I like what you said because that's exactly what I felt in the moment. I kept asking myself, why fire Alex Van Pelt? It seems like such a benign part of what they've done, whether success or not. And as I'm scraping my mind for why they would do that, because it was such a curious move to me, the only thing I could reasonably come up with is that they've decided they want to see what it looks like with someone else calling the plays, and they don't think that Alex is the guy. And that's the owner's prerogative. He writes the checks.
Yep.
Now, there was one graphic, if we can put up the Stefanski career graphic again, the bio. Look, we're really close to the fire. We got very invested this year, and we all thought he did a great job calling plays this year. But I want to point a couple things out. He's had 3 years on the job now, or is it 4? 4 years on the job. 4 years of calling plays. Let's just separate Kevin Stefanski from the record. So let's just look at the art and not the artist. Let's just pretend that this name is Coach X. 37-30 isn't overwhelming anybody. The 1-2 playoff record, the odd thing to me on that is he's not 1-2. I know that in the record books he'll get credit for the win.
Yeah. Well.
But here's what we do know. In Brown's playoff games, in his tenure, when he has not called plays, they're 1-0. When he has called plays, they're 0-2. Now, that's almost laughable to bring that up because it is such a minute. That's like flipping a coin once and it lands on heads and you think it's going to always land on heads. That's a small sample size, and it's really not fair to Kevin. But the fact of the matter is, their one playoff win during his tenure, he did not call plays. The 15-20 following a loss is very concerning.
Following a win,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And the 20-8 following loss is like, wow, this guy's Jekyll and Hyde. Now can we go to the quarter-by-quarter scoring during Stefanski's era?
This was
this
season.
just this year.
This season.
I'd be curious to see what it looks like for his career.
I have it for last year, too. Hold on, I can find last year.
Okay.
Last year, the first quarter was better than this.
Yeah.
What's really shocking to me, guys, is in both cases, the first quarter to second quarter, the third quarter to the fourth quarter, their point production almost doubled, which is not a statistical anomaly. That's now a trend. For whatever reason, they are far more productive in the second and fourth quarters. Now, that's good because I do remember either last year or the year before, they were abysmal in fourth quarters.
Yeah.
I like the fact that their two biggest quarters are second and fourth. You want to finish the half strong, and obviously you need to play well in the fourth.
Yeah.
But the first and third quarters, guys, are really perplexing
That was
to me.
just this past year.
I have last year's numbers.
Go ahead.
I'd like to
Last year.
see
Steve,
them.
you
Go
can
ahead.
take last year.
Okay, the first and third quarters again are
Yeah.
their two lowest quarters. That's a trend, and I don't know why that is. I honestly don't.
People got mad.
I'd like to see it compared to other teams. Now,
People got mad.
Yeah,
Let me-
I
let me
don't
say
have-
this.
I don't have that
Let me
poll
say
for the
this.
record. I don't
The
have that.
Browns franchise before Kevin Stefanski was a shit show.
Yeah, so I
And
almost,
that obviously
nice.
I just insulted shit shows.
You did.
By saying that the Browns
Yeah, you're being nice.
franchise was a shit show.
when you're 0-16 and
Okay.
1-15,
They went 37-30, while not a great record, is pretty good considering where the franchise was.
Right.
The fact that for the most part in those 4 years, especially in the last 3, but even overall,
I know
for
where you're
4,
going.
he's gotten mostly bad quarterback play.
Now, the reason that excuse won't fly
Yeah.
is because the quarterback discussion with Baker,
Yeah.
you killed people for saying, we're finally in the playoffs, we're finally good. And you were adamant and saying, do you just want to be pretty good? We're not here to be pretty good. We need
Correct.
a Super Bowl.
That's
and
right.
So if I am going to hold the quarterback to that standard, and we did.
Right.
We saw that he clearly took us to another level. We were no longer 0-16 and 1-15.
Right.
We went to the playoffs. We won a road playoff game.
Right.
We looked really good on the road against Kansas City. I can't say then about the coach, 37-30, come on, compared to where we were, that's pretty good.
Okay.
I don't want pretty good.
Now, here's what I'd say. With a quarterback, in my opinion, after 4 years of Baker Mayfield, to me, it was obvious he was not a Super Bowl level quarterback.
Is it obvious to you yet that Kevin is not an offensive caliber head coach?
No, that's not
No.
obvious.
No.
It's not.
So how can you definitively make us?
You mean Super Bowl caliber coach?
What are you asking? I'm a little
I used your reference
So
to it was obvious after
to
4
me,
years.
it was obvious that Baker was not a Super Bowl winning
Baker
coach.
wasn't good enough. We don't know that about
I
Kevin.
don't.
Yeah.
That's a
I'm
simple
not
way to
saying
say it.
Yeah.
Kevin
So how do you
Stefanski-
make that
I'm
decision
not
in 4
saying-
years on a quarterback?
I think it's easier on a quarterback. Doesn't mean I couldn't end up being wrong, but I think it's easier on a quarterback than it is a coach because you see more evidence as a fan
I agree.
on a quarterback than you do see for a
and
coach.
I understand that. I'm thinking,
But I don't
that
think we know yet on Kevin Stefanski.
Right. So I'm thinking
I
the
think he's
logical
done
thing-
enough. I think he's more likely to be a Super Bowl coach than Baker Mayfield is to be a Super Bowl quarterback.
fair, but even
I don't even know if it's fair, but that's how I feel.
Well, no, it's fair that you feel that way because Baker hasn't made it to a Super Bowl. Now, Baker looked pretty damn good this year. Didn't ultimately make it to the conference championship game, so we can't toot his horn too loudly. But honestly, I think the team they lost to might be the best team in the NFC. Now, obviously, they're not going to the Super Bowl either. A million reasons for that. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But when you look at where Tampa Bay is and was in their race to a Super Bowl, I actually think they were closer to getting there than the Browns were, despite the fact they only won 9 games in the regular season.
Put Tampa in this division, and
Yeah, it would've been a
they got a
different
losing
story.
Likely
record.
would. But what I'm saying is
Yeah.
their road
They got
playoff
6
game
wins.
against the Lions
Right.
looked a hell of a lot different than our road playoff game against the Texans.
McNuggets,
And the
sure.
Lions are a better
But
team than the
you-
Texans.
So that,
put that-
if
can
you're
you put
going
that back
to, so
up?
you're going to, is your argument that Baker is more of a Super Bowl quarterback
By
because
quarter
of that?
No, that's not my
So,
argument.
yeah,
My argument
by
is
quarter.
this.
Yeah.
If the organization came to the agreement
Yeah.
that after 4 years Baker wasn't the guy, and
Yes.
that's fine for them to do.
Right.
There was a lot of evidence that he was not at that time. What I'm saying is, if that's their threshold of body of work, and then we can make a decision, perhaps the decision they've made on Kevin Stefanski after 4 years is this guy is a great head coach. But the play calling and the actual numbers, again, separate the numbers from the man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go to these numbers.
You can actually look at those and say, This isn't what we want.
I don't
want 37.
I don't think you. In my opinion, you can't judge those numbers without proper context.
I'm going to try to give you some proper context. Can you bring those numbers back up?
This is this year, G.
This is this year.
By the way, keep in mind, I think we pretty much all agreed a week ago that it was a bad move if the Browns forced Kevin Stefanski not to call plays, and you guys are both
still saying that, Bull.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So
all right.
all I'm doing, and that's why I tried to preface it that way, and maybe I didn't emphasize this point enough.
Okay.
All I'm doing is saying it is logical to me that the Haslams have come to this decision because they've got 4 years in the barn, and they're looking at the numbers, not the man, not the individual games. They're looking at the entire body of work and saying, we've got so much invested in a quarterback. Everything in this franchise's future rides on him. If it doesn't work, we made the worst move in franchise history. We don't want that on our legacy.
We need to
let's move on and try a different play caller and see what happens.
I
would not have done that, Bull.
Yeah.
I would let Kevin Stefanski continue.
Here it is. Here's the context right here. Now, you look at those points by quarter, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. Everybody, every athlete, every player, the first thing that they tell you during the week is they say, start fast. Right. Guys, we want to start fast. Guys, we need to get out here. Offense is going to get the ball. They're going to go down and score 7 points. Defense get a stop, put another one on the board. Every level they tell you that. When you look at what this pattern shows me is just starting slow in games. 74 points. You look, they warm up, they get to a place in the second quarter, 137. Here's when you come in the third quarter. Third quarter is all about adjusting to what you saw. Okay, the defense came out. We thought they were going to give us this. This is what they're doing now. How do we adjust to go down and get some points and get this quarter started? They even dip a little lower in terms of the third quarter.
I wonder if there are a lot more teams than we think with these similar type of numbers. Because generally, there's more scoring in the second and fourth quarter than there is in the first.
Well, here's what's funny about
this.
Yeah,
but Bull, this is not just a little more. This is double.
Didn't we just spend last week talking about, Kevin Stefanski's great on the first 15, and then that's it? Now we're flipping the script.
Go ahead and finish, G. Go ahead and finish.
Hold on. Here's the problem is, we just sat there and talked about how Myles Garrett has 0 sacks in games. You can't parse the numbers. Like, if you're going to say you fell off in a certain period of time and Myles Garrett's production slipped, this is showing you
That's not a good comparison. This is quarterback. His fourth quarter is good.
That's what. If these numbers were flipped, if it was 137 first quarter, 74 second quarter, 113 third, 62 fourth, you'd sit there and say he can't adjust.
No.
They start fast, but then when teams figure out what they're doing, they can't adjust.
I think that would be a fair criticism too.
I thought you win in the fourth quarter, 113 points.
No, I won 100, 105, 112, 130. If it's even, that means you are completing your course. That means you're starting fast. That means in the second quarter, you're consistent. You're making adjustments.
But, G, to Bull's point, I'm sure if we looked it up, there would be more scoring in the second and fourth quarter for this reason.
Okay.
The clock slows down.
Go ahead.
You're not playing a clock management game at all in the first and third quarter. In fact, how many times have you watched a game, not the Browns games because they take long, but a lot of times you're watching a game and you're like, holy crap, the first quarter's gone. Mm-hmm. That's because nobody's managing the clock. In the second and fourth quarters, things slow down. However, I think there's something else at play, guys, and I want your thoughts on this.
Do you just say you do have the numbers?
Yeah, it's pretty consistent. First and third quarters are lower than second and fourth. Give me a team.
By how much? By double, though?
It depends. Pick a team. I'll give you a team.
Go with the Chiefs. Go with the Chiefs.
The Chiefs. Kansas City. Chiefs, 78 in the first quarter, 165 in the second quarter.
Okay, that's more than double, so that's standard.
Okay.
70 in the third quarter, and they only had 58 points in the fourth quarter this season.
Wow, that is stunning.
That's worse than the Browns.
That's horrible.
Pick a different team. I'll do one more.
Baltimore.
Baltimore, 106 in the first quarter, 155 in the second.
Okay, up.
99 in the third, 117 in the fourth.
That's more steady. That's what I would like to see.
It's a little.
What do you guys think about this? 155.
No, the first quarter and second quarter were big, but the third and fourth were very close to the first. So they had a big.
Right.
Now, it doesn't surprise me because John Harbaugh is a guy that and there's a lot of guys like this. I think Belichick started it. It was the double score. You preach to your team the most important 8 minutes of the game are the last 4 minutes of the second quarter and the first 4 minutes of the third.
Right.
If you defer and you can work the clock so you score last in the first half, and then can get that double score, that can sometimes be a knockout punch.
I would just bet most teams have more points in the second quarter than the first.
I would guess. I mean, there was the Chiefs was more dramatic than the Browns, but the Ravens was not.
Yes.
No, the Ravens went up 50% in the second quarter. We doubled. We went up almost 100%.
Okay.
I don't see
third
any
and fourth
team.
quarter were very close.
I don't see any team that scored more first quarter points than second quarter points.
No, you probably won't.
Yeah.
And you probably, except for the Chiefs, you probably won't find many that score more in the third than the fourth.
Well, the only thing with the third and fourth is different because sometimes you're just killing clock in the fourth quarter.
Right, and some games either get away from you. If you're up 27-0 against the Cardinals, you're not trying to score. That's not your goal.
And where does the Browns' points in the first quarter rank, Mike?
The Browns' points in the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13th, 14th, 15th. Tied for 15th.
So that's middle of the
Top
pack
half.
with mostly bad quarterback play. I mean, or mediocre quarterback
What do you guys
play.
think of this? I also think, and I've noticed this with the Browns and a lot of teams, it seems like when they get risky and they open up the offense, things just start to happen. They get into a rhythm. And I feel like there's a lack of urgency sometimes in some of those first quarter drives. Not the first drives of the first quarter. I thought we've done well on those. But I feel like we oftentimes score a touchdown, then we 3 and out, or one first down punt. I almost feel like we're wasting some of those first quarter and third quarter possessions because we're almost lost in almost the boredom of the game, it feels like. Then all of a sudden you get down 10, and now I always say the same thing. Now we're going to move it. Now there's a sense of urgency. Let's go. What I love about Andy Reid, and I've always loved this about him, even going back to his Philly days, he doesn't coach to the scoreboard as much as other coaches. If he's up 10-0, he'll typically try to run the same series and the same plays that he was running because if 10-0 is good, 17-0 is better. Some coaches will sit on it. The play that he made, the call that he made on third down yesterday, that's one of the biggest onion moves I've seen in postseason football. It was.
Meanwhile, everybody would have killed him if it didn't work.
I was killing him during the throw. I'm like, what is he doing? And it worked out.
To me, that's why I go back and just from a football standpoint, when Deshaun Watson says, "Look, I'm really not a big fan of scripted plays."
Don't say that.
What do you mean? Hey, I say I'm just keep it real. You said
you didn't mischaracterize
I
what he
didn't
said.
not at all. It was fine.
Reality is, it's just all about the philosophy. Yeah. I agree with him. Like if you're going to tell me to go out here, I want to call a play that's based upon what I'm seeing now. I don't want to call a play based on what I'm seeing that we saw in film, that they had an opportunity to change.
But I'm sure I'd be surprised if he didn't have that opportunity to change.
We don't know that.
Yeah, we don't. Unless Jay does. We don't know the hierarchy of how.
I don't know.
Made a good
The quarterback
point
always
week.
has the freedom to can a play.
Well, yeah, at the line.
At the line.
Of course, he can audible out of anything.
Yeah.
But what Bull was asking, and I don't know, and I meant to call around and ask, but I forgot to do that this weekend. One of the things that Bull made a point of is like, okay, the 15 plays are scripted, but if you're off schedule, let's say you get a 7-yard loss on first down. You're probably off script immediately.
Right.
Yes, you are.
Like, what are you doing? You're not going to run the second sixth play.
I've been told you could get midway through the second quarter before you were off script.
Right, if
depending
things are
on
working.
Depending on how things go.
And so when Deshaun,
that may be an exaggeration, but you get.
But 15 plays would get you through at least 2 drives, successful drives in the first quarter.
But Deshaun says, listen, after we get through them scripted ones, now I'm just playing football. Now I can just read and react, and if you look, I can start fast. I'm cooking in that part. And so even when you go back to Aaron Rodgers, at one point in time before he left left the Green Bay Packers, he was mad at LaFleur because he said don't change the play. And Aaron Rodgers was like, man, I'm Aaron Rodgers. I change all these plays. It's a philosophical difference.
Matt LaFleur's looking like a pretty good coach right now.
But here's the thing. But so that's why he looked like
you can't tell your quarterback you can't check out a play.
So, but see, the crazy thing is, that's why Aaron Rodgers is with the Jets. And when he got there, he said, what? I want control. Everybody, no one's going to come out and say, I should be able to do whatever I want. But when you talk about the relationships behind closed doors. There's times where, and I'll just give you an example. There's times where I would have to. They say, G. Bush, you're gonna rush to 4-eye inside rather than outside. I'm like, yeah, I might start inside.
Yeah,
but
if the play takes you somewhere else,
I'm getting outside.
And by the way, I'm sure there's plenty of times where players decide to do their own thing because they don't think the coach knows what he's doing, and they get it wrong.
Oh, I know multiple off the
Yeah.
top of my head where Baker canned out a called, not to pick on Baker,
Yeah.
but he he checked out of plays that he checked into disasters.
And
It
probably,
happens-
and the fans probably blame Stefanski.
No, that was Freddie. That
You
was the
can
Freddie.
tell when you can typically tell when a quarterback, even if it's not an audible, there's a hand gesture. There's something you can tell when a quarterback checks out of plays.
Well, unless he
I've
changes
seen
it in the
quarterbacks
huddle.
check out of plays and it goes for a touchdown. I've seen quarterback checks out of plays and it goes for a 5-yard loss or a pick.
But
it happens.
The thing is, everybody has to be okay with it.
Yeah.
It sucks because, and the only problem with the issue with Deshaun is seen is he hasn't paid the dividends yet, so that people can be okay with that.
He hasn't had the success yet.
The success. The thing I get with Joe Flacco, and a lot of people, as we talk about why he was loved, because Joe Flacco, yes, he threw interceptions, but he put deposits in the bank for withdrawals.
Right.
He threw you touchdowns, and you like, okay. Guys was open. He was throwing the ball downfield, and so as fans, we'll take the negative plays if you have something in the bank. As far as that goes.
We didn't really talk about play call. We said who we thought was going to be.
Yeah, so who should? Who should?
Who should?
I mean, in a perfect world, do you
I
think
think Stefanski should. It's not who I think will, but I think it should be Stefanski.
Here's why I think it's going to be Kevin. Two key things that kind of.
Wait, you said you thought it was going to be Ken.
I'm sorry. Why I think it's going to be two key
Okay.
things. Why I think it's going to be Ken.
Okay.
Number one, Ken loves shotgun,
Yeah, he does.
and
we
Kevin.
think that
we spent the whole
Deshaun loves
Flacco part of the show of this season talking about play action under center and the success that Kevin has with play action under center. Well, that's not Ken Dorsey. Ken Dorsey is shotgun, and Deshaun is shotgun. And Ken has worked with Josh Allen and Cam Newton, and that very much fits the mold of what Deshaun is. So that tracks with getting someone that Deshaun is comfortable with. And this was interesting. I don't know if this is really a tell on who's going to call the plays, but you talk about differences between Ken Dorsey and Stefanski. I was told Dorsey is not a gadget guy, trick play guy at all. Running backs run the ball, receivers catch the ball, the quarterback throws the ball.
Interesting.
There's no, like, when Dayball was there, when Dayball was in Buffalo, Dayball liked to have fun. And he would say, like, let's have fun with this. And they would have wide receiver, trick plays where wide receivers are throwing the ball, a lot of jet sweeps, tap passes, just gadget, eye candy type of stuff.
Kevin likes that too.
Kevin loves that.
I've seen a lot of
loves that. That is not Ken Dorsey. Ken Dorsey is very straight, very traditional. Running backs run the ball, receivers catch the ball, the quarterback's the only one
Now,
throwing
if
the ball.
Kevin wants it in the offense, it'll be in the offense. He's the head coach. So I can't imagine that if there's a flashpoint between the two, that Dorsey would win that argument.
Those were two things, though, that I thought were very telling that were told to me over the weekend.
That's
One,
interesting.
the shotgun versus under center play action, there's a stark difference between what Ken likes to call it and how Kevin likes to call it, and then the lack of trick plays in the Dorsey playbook.
And the shotgun runs are much more difficult to get momentum on. Like, if you're under center, your running back is downhill. He's getting 3 or 4 yards to see the hole, move around, and see cutback lanes. A lot of the stuff that you're doing out of shotgun is left, right, sweep, outside stuff, and you don't get the inside zone stuff like that you really need to get in terms of the running game and paying dividends.
I heard an interesting this morning. I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, and I decided to do learn more about Ken Dorsey. I was going through some stuff. I also did a deep dive into the border crisis and wanted to know the truth because you hear all the nonsense on TV, and I was like, "What is the truth?"
You'll get lost there.
I was fascinating the truth, but I won't get into that. But when I watched an interesting breakdown. Kurt Warner did this video breakdown of why he thought Josh Allen was struggling at the end with Ken Dorsey, and why he thought Ken Dorsey was a scapegoat in the whole situation.
Yeah.
And he said one of the things I never really thought about this because I didn't play quarterback and I didn't play in the NFL. But one of the things he brought up is that guys that play from the shotgun a lot, which apparently now we're going to do with Deshaun Watson because that's what he wants, even though it's not what Kevin Stefanski wants to do. He said sometimes when you're in the shotgun a lot, you get set too early because, and that's not good, right? Like you want to be, you want, as a quarterback, you want your feet to kind of be moving until you set and then go. The problem with sometimes with if you're under center, hey, you got to take 3 steps back, 5 steps back. So by the time you get set, it's you're ready to throw the ball.
Yeah.
As opposed to when you're in shotgun, sometimes quarterbacks get set too early, they get antsy and they throw the ball too early. And he thought that was a problem, that was a little rut, and why Josh Allen got into a slump. Because he was getting set a little too quickly, and he was getting anxious and throwing the ball a little too early, which was fascinating. I hadn't really thought about it. But anyway, and that's and that's something that the Browns will certainly have to look out for with Deshaun Watson, because that could lead to some mistakes.
I just think it's a lost art. When you talk about being under center, the footwork is like dancing.
It's coming back, though. I'm seeing more of that in the NFL.
It's like being it takes a little bit of time to give it to them, but most of the guys that are coming out, I would say from 2009, 2010, those guys are starting to be out of the league. That's 10 years in the league. The guys that are in college that are specifically in the shotgun, getting under center is like dance steps. You have to really learn the fakes, the 3-step, and that's why I was really impressed with C.J. Stroud, because he'll do a 7-step drop under center, and you just don't see that anymore, right? So I think one of the things that I think is going to have to happen, it has to be collaboration, and they have to get to a point where Deshaun Watson has to be able to have ownership of the offense. I don't think he has ownership of the offense.
I think he does now. To me, this was the move. If there was a tug of war going on between Kevin and Deshaun on are we going to be under center or are we going to be in the shotgun, they went out and hired a guy who prefers the shotgun. So I'm not saying that there was a power struggle, but they could have gone one of two ways, and they went with a shotgun guy. And that's telling to me.
And when I say ownership, I mean that he takes onus of if that play was successful or not. I could look at other quarterbacks, and when Patrick Mahomes is out there, I very rarely see him talking to anybody or anybody other people about what happens. He is in full control of what they're running out there, and so he just looks comfortable. I just don't think Deshaun was comfortable with certain things, and we'll see how it works out. We'll get these guys a mesh, but hopefully he has ownership.